Hey, I'm going to be going away for a little bit. I figured I'd make some tier lists for you before I go, so I hope you all enjoy. All right, so we're jumping into the final class here, and that is the Hunter. If you want to check out the Warlock and Titan ones, I have posted those previously on the channel, and know that these are going to be both ranked for PvE and PvP. It's just an overall rating. So starting off, we have the Aeon Gauntlets. In both my Warlock and Titan videos, that's an S tier exotic by far. It can generate heavy ammo, is probably not as valuable this season with things like Lose It Finisher, but once that goes away, it's insanely strong for GMs and day one raids. Now we have Assassin's Cowl. Assassin's Cowl went from being a pretty good exotic to being literally the meta exotic for Arc 3.0. So this is also going to be S tier. It's also pretty fun in PvP. What it does when you get a melee kill, you go invisible and you restore some health. With a bunch of Arc 3.0, synergies going on for the Hunter, you can get a bunch of melee damage. You can just stay alive forever, one hit everything. It is very, very strong. Now we have Athre's Embrace, which is a fun exotic. It lets your weighted knife be unstoppable, and you can also build up a lot of damage with it if you get precision hits. It works really well with Divinity. It's also a pretty fun option in PvP if you do pair with something like a pulse rifle, so you can really ramp up those precision hits really fast. So I think overall it should go in the A tier spot. It's definitely not an S tier exotic, but it is very, very good in both PvE and PvP. Now we have Blight Ranger. That's an easy F tier. I don't even have to talk about this one, but you can reflect things and your reflected projectiles do more damage. That more damage is virtually nothing, so definitely would never recommend running this. But now we have Caliban's Hand. This is one of my favorite exotics. This basically turns your proximity knife into a grenade or nuke. If you get a kill with it, it will make your enemies ignite. If you build into that ignite, it can be very strong. It's also very fun in PvP. If you get your scorch stacks stacked up, you can just ignite entire teams. I actually have a clip on my channel where I've done that before. It's very, very fun. I don't think it's S tier, but I do think it definitely deserves to be in the A tier spot. It's really good, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's like, on the borderline S tier where it's almost required if you're running in a specific build. Now we have Celestial Nighthawk. Celestial Nighthawk has went down a lot. It used to be one of the best exotics for the Hunter for Golden Gun, but now with other exotics and changes to Solar 3.0, it honestly has just dropped down dramatically. You don't really see anyone running anymore. I think you could use a little buff. You do get like 33% of your super energy back if you get a kill with Celestial Nighthawk equipped with your Golden Gun. It's really cool, but just have that one shot is just not really worth it. And I honestly think I'm going to throw it in the B tier spot. Maybe you can move it up to A, because I mean, it is so nice to just get off that chunk of damage really quick if you are using other damage options. But overall, I think just using other options will be better. So I think that's why I'm going to put it in B tier, but I can't see the argument for A. Now we have Foe Tracer. Foe Tracer in PvE is an exotic. It's not like the greatest. You do get a little extra damage to those targets from their lower health. The tracking doesn't matter really, but it is pretty good in PvP. So I'm kind of in the middle with this exotic because it is definitely not the greatest thing in the game, but it is still relatively good. So I think it deserves the B tier spot because you can really make it work in PvP. On top of that, in PvE is kind of where it lowers it a little bit, but it's okay. Now we have Frosties. Frosties is, again, just a pretty baseline exotic. Sprinting gives you some cooldown rate. There's always a good thing to have cooldown rate, so I think just for a solid exotic, it's going to be B tier. It's good in both PvE and PvP, but I think other stuff is a little bit better. Now we have Gemini Jesters. In PvE, these are, again, just there. These are mainly a PvP exotic, but I think they are very strong in PvP. Honestly, borderline S tier, but I think I'm going to throw them in A tier due to their lack of PvE effectiveness. But you could dodge, disable people's radar, which is very, very good, and you can make a lot of crazy plays with these. Now we have Graviton Forfeit. This is an exotic that extends your invisibility. When you're invisible, you get more melee cooldown. You can pretty much be invisible 100% of the time if you have this equipped with the right build. But there are other invisibility based exotics that are better in my opinion in this, but it is still really good, and I'm struggling between putting it in A or B. I think I'm going to put it in B because, like I said, other stuff's going to be better. Other Void 3.0 exotics are going to be better. But it is good, though, if you do want to play into it for both PvE and PvP. Gwyn's Invest, that's an easy F tier. It has not been good in a very long time. You basically just extend the duration of Spectral Blades. This is mainly a PvE-focused exotic. I guess you can make it work in PvP, but no one's running Spectral Blades in really either of those activities at this point, so I think it deserves the F tier spot. Now we have Gerfalcon's Halberd. Now, before this exotic was S tier, they actually ended up changing it so where now it will grant you volatile rounds when you come out of invisibility. and it's still S tier. It's arguably even better than what it once was. Like, having infinite volatile rounds is just insanely strong. It did get nerfed in PvP, which was the main reason they made the change, but they arguably made it even better in PvP. LMGs are becoming meta with this now. I made a video pretty much when the season started about the seasonal LMG or machine gun and how it could be very strong. And now that the changes came through, everybody's getting a hold of it. It's very, very good. It's very good for ad clear. It's very good for adding additional DPS. Really, really strong exotic. Now we have Kefri Sting. Kefri Sting in PvE, you get a smoke bomb damage, but it's not the greatest thing. The main thing is the wall hacks it gives when you're in a smoke bomb. This exotic is an S tier. I have thought this exotic has been broken pretty much the entire time it has been in the game. Being able to just get instant wall hacks is very strong. The smoke damage, like I said, is kind of whatever in both activities, but literally just being able to have wall hacks, it to me deserves an S tier spot. I think people are starting to come around and see how strong these actually are as well. They're becoming very oppressive in the Crucible. Now we have Knucklehead Radar. Knucklehead Radar is a very good exotic. I don't see a lot of people running it, but it is really good. It has a really good benefit. Your radar is always up. If you crouch, you get enhanced radar. It's pretty simple. But for PvP, if you don't know what else to run, I think it is a good exotic just to throw on. I think that's why it deserves the B tier spot. It's good, but I just don't think it's good as some other options. Now we have Liar's Handshake. This exotic, I'm probably going to throw it in the S tier spot. You basically get more melee damage pretty much on your second melee, or if someone melees you, you can also get health back when you melee enemy. It's really good for Arc 3.0. It's okay in the Crucible. You can do some fun stuff with it, but for PvE, getting that extra damage is very nice. The problem is that Assassin's Cowl exists, and most people run that. You can kind of go back and forth on whichever one you want to run, but I think with Assassin's Cowl being in the meta, I think you can maybe move it to A tier, but I'm going to keep it in S tier for now. Maybe in the future seasons, it might go down a little bit, but we'll just have to wait and see. But now we have Lucky Pants. This exotic is honestly pretty good in both PvP and PvE. It can pretty much make your primary hand cannons do a relatively decent amount of DPS. On top of that, you also get that handling for hand cannons, so I think Lucky Pants honestly deserves going to the A tier spot. They're, you know, like I said, very good in PvP, relatively good in PvE. You do have to kind of build around a little bit, but in PvP, I think it should bump it up to an A. Now we have Lucky Raspberry. This is another exotic. It's kind of just good. It's definitely not the greatest. If you have other Arc Grenade builds going on, or Lucky Raspberry is just not going to be in the rotation, but I will put it in B tier because you can spam grenades with it, which is always fun in PvE. In PvP, you're probably not going to be running it that much, but again, it's not like too terrible. Now you have Mask of Bakris. I know some people love this exotic. I personally do not, but being able to just teleport on demand is obviously very good in PvP. PvE, it does have a small benefit of giving you some arc damage increase that can stack with pretty much every single buff in the game, which is nice, but it's not like the greatest thing. And I think just put it in B tier is probably the best option. I can see the argument moving it to A. I think I will keep it in A actually, because it is good in PvP, and I guess it does have a slight benefit in PvE. Now we have Mechaneer's Trick Sleeves. These exotics are very fun. It buffs your sidearm handling, reloads to be like crazy. Also, if you're critical health and swap to a sidearm, you will get a lot of damage. That damage is honestly pretty nice in PvE, but on top of that, it is very, very strong in PvP, and I think these definitely deserve going to A tier spot. I don't think these are S tier worthy, but with sidearms being in the meta, I could see the argument moving it to S tier, but I think A tier is a very good spot for it. Other stuff, probably going to be a little bit better, but they are extremely strong. Now we have Oath Keepers. This is the same thing. It really plays into bows, unlike sidearms. This lets your bows just have infinite draw time. I know some people like these and can make it work, but in reality, you don't really have to run these things. They used to give more draw speed, but they removed that because it was kind of broken a little bit. But with just having the infinite duration, I think it's going to go in D tier. You can't make it work with things like the Monarch, but they're just definitely not the greatest. Now I have Omnioculus. That's an easy S tier. This is pretty much the better invisibility exotic I was talking about when I was talking about Graviton Forfeit. You get 2 smoke bombs. You can pretty much have infinite smoke bombs if you do play around the visibility aspect of it, and it is just extremely nice. It is very good. You get that damage resistance while you're invisible. If you're playing a defensive Void 3.0, you take Omnioculus. If you're playing offensive, you take your Falcons. That's pretty much just the standard at this point. Now we have Ophidian Spade. You get an extra throw knife charge. What's really cool with this one is that the extra throw knife charge will actually count as like 1 charge. So if you dodge, you just get both knives back. It's not the greatest. It's not bad, but I think a C tier is pretty good for it. It's just kind of there. You can make it work, but other stuff is definitely going to be better. Now we have Orpheus Rig. Orpheus Rig used to be one of the strongest exotics in the game. You can get pretty much infinite tethers, but now you can only get 50% of that energy back, but it does also give you a third shot, which makes tether one of the highest DPS supers in the game. It's not the highest, but it is really good. I think it deserves the A tier spot. Nobody really uses it for the ad clear potential anymore. It still is relatively strong though, don't get me wrong. I just don't think it's in that S tier spot that they used to be in, especially if you're running Void. You have exotics like the Falcons and Omni Oculus. Now we have Radiant Dance Machines. These let you dodge a lot if you dodge near an enemy. They are not the greatest. They were pretty broken when they first came out. They nerfed them into oblivion. It's still a fun exotic, but I think D tier is good for it. It's definitely not F, but you know, it's still kind of bad. And now you have Radiant Flux. This is another one where it's going to buff your Arc Staff damage and duration. The problem is Arc Staff is not that good, especially now when you compare it to the other Arc Hunter super for PvE. Yeah, you know, is ever really going to run this? And PvP, I mean, you can throw it on there, but it's not the greatest. I think it deserves D tier. It is okay, but it's still pretty bad. Now we have Raju's Harness. Now this exotic is actually getting a little play recently. People are just swapping to it because Arc Staff is honestly really strong now in PvP. You can swap to this, you get, you know, a bunch of block back. You can cancel super whenever you want to. You know, it's pretty good. I don't think it's extremely strong in PvE. It's honestly worthless. I think a C tier spot's good for it. You know, PvP, like I said, you can make it work. PvE, it's pretty pointless. And now we have Renewal Grasp. Now, Renewal Grasp, I think, honestly, is an S tier exotic. If you're playing into a Stasis Hunter build, this is pretty much the go-to exotic you're going to be running, especially if you're going into Dust Field grenades. They just enhance Dust Field grenades like no other exotic can, or pretty much any subclass. And they're just a huge AoE dome. It's very, very cool. Even in PvP, with Dust Souls being buffed, this could be very strong. The cooldown on it is still kind of bad PvP, but in PvE, you have so many ways you can work around the cooldown nerf, and you can have pretty much infinite Dust Fields at any point in the game. Sealed Ahamkar Grass, when you melee an enemy, you're going to reload your guns. It's not terrible, as a pretty cool, you know, exotic perk. It's not the greatest. I think C tier is pretty good for it. It's definitely not good, but you know, at least it does something pretty useful. Now you have Shard's Galanor. Again, once a very good exotic, you can pretty much just get infinite Blade Barrages. Blade Barrage was really good in the previous season. This season they nerfed it a little bit. It's still relatively strong, but I think B tier is a pretty good spot for it. You can get around half your super energy back when you throw it out. You know, it's, you know, just a super base exotic. You know, that's always just going to be relatively nice. Now we have Shinobu's Vow. This exotic is very good PvE and PvP. A lot of people don't run it, but with Arc 3.0, specifically in PvE, you can spam scoop grenades and jolt everything with it. Very, very fun. It's very, very strong. PvP, it's also oppressive. You can just throw skip grenades to make enemies move out of corners, anything like that. So I think it deserves the A tier spot. I don't think it's as, you know, in the S tier spot. Obviously, Assassin's Cow build is definitely better than Shinobu's Vow, but Shinobu's Vow is still pretty good. Now we have Stompies. They got nerfed dramatically. I personally still think they're in the S tier spot. Just with the sheer movement you get, it's still very, very nice. If they ever change the airborne effectiveness, you know, they're going to become meta again. Sprint speed, slot speed, jumping, everything about it. They're also good in PvE if you need to get through jumping puzzles, sometimes mandatory in some situations. So yeah, definitely an S tier exotic. Now we have Star Eater Scales. Star Eater Scales, very, very strong. You literally can have a bunch of super energy. You get your super energy to do a lot more damage, and you get an overshield after you use your super. So this pair with Golden Gun, this pair with a brand new Arc Hunter super, this pair with literally any super in the game you can think of, it is very, very good. This is the reason why things like Celestial Nighthawk is definitely in B tier now. It is simply because if you just take the 3-shot Golden Gun with these, it will do more damage. Now we have Bombardiers. This exotic, I want to be good. It has such a cool, unique benefit where when you pair it with certain subclasses, you know, it, you know, does different things with the bomb. You know, slow for stasis, scorch for incendiary, blind for arc, and I think it's suppress for void. I'm pretty sure. You know, it's good on paper, but in reality, like, you just can't really use it that much. I definitely think it deserves a B tier spot because it's fun. It does have a pretty good benefit for both PvE and PvP, but running it over other, you know, exotics for those, I don't think you're ever going to use it, but it is a fun option. Now we have Dragon Shadow. Now this might shock some of you, but I think this is an S tier exotic. I know you don't see it ran a lot, but in PvP, you get pretty much infinite handling. On top of that, you get a bunch of reload speed. It is very, very good, and all it requires you is to dodge one time, and obviously getting your dodge back isn't too hard on the Hunter. In PvE, it's honestly not that bad. It's one of those exotics. If you don't know what to run, throw this on. You're just going to be able to get a bunch of reload speed, a bunch of handling. It's going to reload all your guns, not even the one that's currently equipped. Very, very good. Highly recommend y'all try it out. It's one of my go-tos if I am playing PvP on the Hunter. Now we have the 6 Coyote where you get a second dodge. This is another one of those exotics, kind of like a Fitting Spade. Like, it's okay. Other stuff's better. You get that second dodge, which can play into some cool things, but no one's ever really going to run this over other things that we have. Then Wormhunt's Crown. Wormhunt's Crown used to be extremely strong. It got nerfed. It's still really good. I think A tier spots for it's pretty good. Dodge, you get some health back. It's good in both PvE and PvP, but other stuff for PvE is for sure going to be better. But for PvP, if you just need to get out, it's just, you know, a very workhorse exotic. You don't have to worry about anything. You just hit your dodge button, you get some health back, and you can just really see the benefits of it. Now we have Young Correspond. I honestly think this is an S tier exotic. It is extremely strong in PvP. If literally the amount of grenade damage this thing does, especially paired with Scorch, honestly on the levels of Viking Funeral, I feel like back in D1. On top of that, in PvE, it's also not bad. You can just throw grenades like crazy. They do a lot of damage. In PvP, it is more of its strong suit, but don't sleep on it in PvE either. PvP, though, very, very good. Highly recommend y'all give them a shot. And this is pretty much my tier list for the Hunter. Like I say in every other video, these are my opinions. I'm sure some of you all are going to disagree, but I would love for you to voice your opinions in the comment section down below so we can start a conversation about everything. But I think this is pretty good, but I would love to hear from you all. But yeah, that's going to do it for my Season 19 updated tier list. I really hope you all enjoy. If you want to check the other ones out, obviously be sure to go check out the channel. I have those posted. They're probably my 2 most recent videos. But if you all enjoyed and learned anything new, consider subscribing, drop a like, and turn those notifications on. Also, if you like join my Discord or following any of my socials, all of that will be linked in the description below. But just know watching this video is way more than enough, and that every single bit of support from you all is truly appreciated. Thank you all so much for watching this one, and have a great day. Peace.